Hey, what's up, Amanda?
Hey, Amy. I'm I'm here. What's up with you?
I am here too. It's a rainy day in Oregon. Surprise, surprise.
Going to be here too.
Yeah, well, it's still May. So
That's right.
we had an awesome talk today, didn't we?
We
Very
did.
nice guest.
It was
Yes.
so awesome.
Yeah.
Dr. Mark Cheng.
Dr. Mark Cheng, strong first senior instructor, doctor of Chinese medicine that incorporates acupuncture, manual medicine, and herbal medicine.
Creator of K3 Combat Movement Systems and the creator of Beachbody's Tai Cheng program, which Amy has done
I
and
have
part
done.
fucking last night, right?
Yeah, yeah. I did the whole program in 2013, and I just popped the DVD in one of them, and I need to be doing it more. So great program. We had a great conversation. We hope you all like it. This is one worth listening to. He covers a lot of ground. He's a very knowledgeable man, very, very nice man, and a great instructor. So we
A
were
lot.
honored to have him today.
Yes, it was great. We hope you all enjoy it.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna see you later. And the podcast will start. We are recording. Good morning. Good morning, Amanda. Good morning, Doc Chang.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
All right. This is awesome. Amanda and we're so honored today to have Dr. Mark Chang with us. And just so you know, we did a little homework. We were very we were kind of stoked, and I said, I'm kind of nervous. So we listened to the Kyle Kingsbury podcast, both of us. We've taken some notes, and so we're really excited. And the big thing we really want to start off with is, well, of course, we want to hear about your background. So if we want to start there and then get into the K3 combat systems, because we're both really interested in that for people to hear and just for ourselves, I think. So.
Oh, cool. My background, gosh. I always have a hard time with this for some reason, and I really don't know why, but I think depending on the audience, depending on what people like are coming to the table with and what their curiosities are and what their needs are, I have like different things that I've specialized in over the years. But really it all comes back down to martial arts. Martial arts has been the lens through which I see kind of everything in my world. And it's always been my greatest passion, my big love, my true love. And so, you know, with a lifelong fascination in martial arts, lifelong passion of learning martial arts, that got me eventually down the road into Chinese medicine, and which includes acupuncture, Chinese manual medicine, which is called Tui Na, as well as Chinese herbal medicine. So from there, I got back into teaching and training patients, or treating patients rather. And one of my patients happened to be Bruce Lee's top student, a gentleman by the name of Dan Inosanto. Mr. Inosanto called me to attend his academy one morning, and he said, you know, I need a favor. There's a Russian weightlifting coach coming by, and like my back is finally not hurting. Like, can you, just in case he asks me to do something that's like a little bit sketchy, would you mind like intervening? I go, not at all. Who's the Russian weightlifting coach? Pavel Tsatsouline, who is, for those of you that don't know, Pavel Tsatsouline is the guy who basically single-handedly set up the kettlebell for success as a fitness tool around the world. He took this Soviet or Eastern Bloc traditional weight training tool and designed a curriculum around it so it could be taught throughout the world. And now, because of his efforts, it's become really popular everywhere. So from Pavel, I got to meet a gentleman named Gray Cook. For those of your listeners who are familiar with physical therapy or training, Gray is the father of functional movement systems. So the FMS, functional movement screen, has come about because of his efforts, as well as Dr. Lee Burton's. And so FMS is now pretty much ubiquitous in almost every like training room, every sports science institute. So yeah, FMS has been tremendous. And then eventually I got asked the question, probably around 2008 or something like that. Doc, so, you know, now that you do all of these different things, you've written for like over a decade for Black Belt Magazine, you're into martial arts, you do Chinese medicine, you're into kettlebells, like, what is your workout like? And I thought, that kind of comes back to 3Ks. Kettlebells for one, obviously. Second one would be Kali or Kubi Gabong, which are implement-based or martial arts in Southeast Asia. specifically the Philippines and Thailand. And then kick punch arts like karate, kung fu, capoeira. So I thought, K3, there we go. But outside of just the martial arts in terms of combatives, in terms of tactical applications in fighting, over time, I started realizing that a lot of these training methods that we use in martial arts, like in warrior culture, first and foremost have to meet a prerequisite. If they damage the practitioner, then it's useless, because who wants to train in something as a warrior, as a fighter, as a person who's as military personnel? Why would someone want to train in a way that's going to destroy them or impair their performance on the battlefield or impair their longevity? So these training methods that good and mature warrior cultures will use are those that feed the longevity of the practitioner first and foremost, as well as improving tactical capabilities. So the birth of K3 in its modern form.
Excellent.
Nice. So that's
go ahead, Amanda.
Pavel is the way we both met you at the Dome in 2016, was it, Amy?
It sounds about right.
I met Doc in 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Pavel's teaching and training methodologies are much that way too, like you just said, leaving a couple in the tank and not completely exhausting all your reserves, and being a little more modest in your delivery, right?
Absolutely. When I first started training with Pavel, one of the things that he kept emphasizing was like, it's not about the kettlebell, it's about the movement, it's about the technique. And at the beginning, everyone's so fascinated with the kettlebell, like, oh, I just want to be able to lift this thing. But then over time, when you hear it enough times, just like focus on the movement. And especially if you're working with a trainer or an instructor who's very good about dialing you back, like, okay, wait, before you go to lift that thing, because we know you can muscle it up, let's have you do this instead. Let's have you do this movement exercise instead, whether it's just like a wall squat, whether it's like an unloaded Turkish get up, whether it's, just working on hinging, like, even a towel swing or an air swing. These are things that I think help the practitioner stick to the integrity of the movement and appreciate it better.
Well, and it's so useful too when you're a trainer and you have this wide population of people that you're coming and going. I know me, I've trained everything from kids on a high school track team to older folks. And when you dial all that back, you really can help everyone. And so it's pretty awesome stuff. And I've used I don't have it with me because I put it in my Xbox last night, but I got my old Tai Cheng out and was looking at it. Yeah, well, and that's how we met. Is I walked up to you at the Dome and I said, "Hey, Doc, my name's Amy, and I want you to know I did Tai Cheng last year and I loved it. And you had a backpack and a cup of coffee. You set them down, and I got the best hug. It was so sweet. But it's an awesome program, and I still use elements of the Neural Reboot in all of my warm-ups, and to everyone I've ever coached, they get a piece of that. So
very cool to hear that.
Please look at that.
That kind of moves me. It's funny because when Beachbody first approached me to put together Tai Cheng, they were like, we just want a Tai Chi kind of based remedial sort of easy to do thing for our older folks. And I'm like, how about this? Why don't we put something together that like anyone of any fitness level can do, and it will still benefit them tremendously? I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds good too. So that's kind of how I put Tai Cheng together. I mean, I wanted to put together the best. If someone asked me like, how would you put together the best practices around a Tai Chi based fitness routine? That was Tai Cheng.
Yeah. Amy called me last night and said she was doing it. And she was like, this is not easy.
Not. I forget how moving slow. I mean, I've been training now for a long time, and I feel like I'm in pretty good shape and I'm strong, and I am sore just from taking everything back and moving slow and deliberately. And it's like, oh, I need more of this in my life right now. So yeah. Do you want to talk about that? Because you mentioned that on the Kyle Kingsbury podcast, that slow training.
Yeah, slow training really, I think, is a demonstration of control in a lot of ways. I mean, when you don't have the option of using momentum, like you can't catapult yourself through a particular range and you've got to really slow it down, find posture, and then look for inefficiencies. Like this is one of the things that I think a lot of people would tend to turn a blind eye to, is that those inefficiencies of tension, right? Like tension is a wonderful thing when it comes to absolute strength. Like if we're looking for a 1 rep max or something like that, or endurance under massive fatigue, tension's your friend. But resorting to tension as a default, I think, is unhealthy. Actually, let me take that back. I don't think it's unhealthy. I know it's unhealthy because it ends up being where you're like driving with the brakes on. You know, like if you can just unlock the parking brake, yeah, some people will argue that the parking brake is a wonderful thing to pull up all the way up, and that's great when the car's parked, or if your regular brakes fail. But the rest of the time, you want that thing all the way down so that the handling of the car is nice and smooth and easy. Similarly with our own bodies, if we're always focused on like tension, 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 and we don't pay adequate attention to looking for where that tension has become miscalibrated in our bodies, like, for example, healthy tissue, I always say healthy soft tissue should be able to accept some pressure. So if someone presses on your quad and all of a sudden you like your eyes like bug out and you like, like that, that's an indicator. That's an indicator that that part of your quad, that vastus lateralis, that calf, that wherever, has accrued so much tension that it's now inelastic. So when someone presses on it, you're now hyperreactive. So in light of that, if we can train in ways that allow us to become aware of our tension that we didn't realize was there, while at the same time training us to be able to develop greater tension as well as greater relaxation, that's the best goal possible. It's the best like kind of outcome possible. So that's sort of the lens through which I viewed creating Tai Cheng, but it's also the same lens that I've been using like for my entire life as far as martial arts training or performance training. You've got to understand both extremes.
So someone who was interested in this and like getting started in your K3 system, but they weren't near you, they weren't near town, where would you suggest someone start in that realm?
Well, I've been doing my best, although like my best could always be better, to drop a trail of breadcrumbs along as far as social media goes. So if they wanted to get started just kind of without any commitment whatsoever, without any pressure, with negligible financial output, one of the easiest ways to do that is just following the trail of breadcrumbs I've left on social media. So on Instagram, for example, at K3 Combat or at Dr. Mark Cheng, you'll find a series of videos where I go over some of the introductory exercises. And like I tell people what they need as far as equipment, things like that. And then you can just follow over some of the exercises. And then in practicing those, there are more and more and more and more progressions that we can get to down the road. But to give people just a general taste of what lies ahead for them, social media is one of the easiest things. The other way is through the website, k3combat.com. But social media, I've been trying to do my best to make that a rich experience for folks so they can, easily, conveniently, whatever, just have a look at something and then say like, okay, I can do that. Let's give that a try.
I've seen you practice some of that with your son.
Yes. Yeah. I'm one of those guys that like, people will see me occasionally recommend something on my social media, whether it's Instagram or Facebook. And whether it's a food product, whether it's a training method, whether it's a tool, whether it's whatever, right? I need to know that it works for me. And like, I don't care what kind of cool supplement, sample, whatever someone drops off on my front door. If I don't like it, if I don't benefit from it, if my family doesn't dig it, then like, no, the world will never hear about it from me unless it's negative. But if something's really positive, I'll crow about it. And so if I like a training method, if I like something, and if I see it's beneficial, then I'm absolutely going to be doing it with my kids.
Very cool. So what's really cool about seeing that with your kids too, and is right now so many people are having to homeschool their children. And I know that PE is like, what are we going to do for PE? So I'll go out and, run or play basketball, shoot basketball, which is all fun. I love I love shooting baskets still, but I see some of these, I see K3 and maybe some like Indian club training is maybe a great thing to get the kids into now, because it seems like it has this, well, you talked about this again on the Kyle Kingsbury podcast, that focus element and integrating the concentration with the physical. And there's so much benefit to that.
Yeah, I think one of the cool things about the K3 double implement drills, as opposed to clubs, I'm not knocking clubs by any way, shape, or form. I love them. But I think for kids, right, that like if you have them do a swing pattern, they'll probably be able to do it, but unless they're really like super disciplined kids, most will be like, yeah, do a couple reps and then like goof off and do something else. Whereas if you have a training partner, whether it's your parent, whether it's another sibling or something else, right? And you have to go through like a responsive situation where it's like, here's a training implement coming at you. Why don't you match that, right? Like, so it's like a padded stick. If this padded stick's coming at you and you've got to match it back, and then you go through this thing where they have to be reactive, then like both are dialed in. And so the exercise itself becomes self-limiting, right? Rather than like, hey, do this, come back, no, that's not how you do it. Come back over here, bring the club up. Okay, bring it behind your head, extend all the way up and out. Okay, great, that's it. And then constantly having to herd them back in that way, then it becomes like laborious for the coach or for the teacher, for the trainer. It's like, oh God, why am I doing this? And then it almost becomes punitive, right, for you as the adult, as the instructor in that situation. But if you can give them something where like the exercise naturally tunes them in, like it's almost intuitive, then like, especially if it's on a primitive level, like swinging a stick at something is pretty primitive.
Yeah.
And so if you can dial into an exercise methodology that allows the kids to do that in a like negligible amount of instruction, yet they're doing it right, that's ideal.
Yeah, and if you can taunt them away from like the video games or TV or whatever into doing something like that, they're focusing on the now, they're being in the present. They're also doing that in the video games, but they're engaged in something that is sort of taking over their brain in another way, you know? Mm-hmm. And then doing that with, say, you and your son, it's making him think both sides of his brain, his body, everything just completely different.
Right. I'm not knocking video games at all. I mean, in fact, I think video games are awesome as far as some elements of neural development. But when you've got movement involved with it too, it's almost like all of the stuff that you were getting to do in like those fighting style video games is now brought to life. So now your feet can feel it, your ankles can feel it, your hips and your legs and your spine can feel it. And it becomes a little bit more rich. So instead of something that just exists on that screen, you are now bringing that into real life. And you're now like embodying, like making those skills corporeal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where do I see the padded sticks. Where's a place where people can get those? Or do you just make
bunalbrand.com. BUNAL brand.com.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Is that a partnership with K3?
Bunal brand is a product. The padded stick idea was started by a friend of mine. And actually I found out about him through his product. I was like, man, these are really good. Like a lot of people talk about protective equipment or safety equipment, but like the products they use are kind of like, and I saw his particular version and I was like, these are like really good. Like a lot of the padded sticks out there, either the padding was too thin. And so like, if you got hit by it, you were like, okay, that is not as bad as a real stick, but it's still like pretty like uncomfortable. And then there are other ones that look like kind of, 3-year-olds toys. Like it's a padded stick designed for an adult, but it's like, it's flopping all over the place like a pool noodle. And so I'm like, this isn't useful either, because then it's not the same structural integrity. And his were like, have the structural integrity of a stick, yet like padded very, very well. So you could accidentally make a decent amount of contact, but not like go to the hospital with a fracture.
Sure.
I went and I spoke to the guy that started the company, the guy that makes these sticks. And I said, man, like you have something really special here. I was like, would you mind, if we put together a particular spec for K3. And he was like, no, let's do it. And when I had to relocate out to this part of the LA County in late 2016, he was one of the guys that, you know, because I didn't know anyone out here in this neck of the woods. He was one of the guys, because he lived out in this way, like would text me all the time, check in on me, we'd hang out, go to lunch. So it's just a natural outgrowth of all that.
Awesome. So tell us what your day looks like now. Are you still seeing patients virtually? Are you able to do that? Do you do any Zoom coaching?
The COVID life of Doc Cheng here.
Yeah.
It's been interesting. I'll say it's been interesting. I've actually dialed back a lot as far as work. Prior to COVID, there were days when I'd be like, damn, I just want to sleep. Like, I need some chill time. Like my parents were visiting. They came out in December. And, you know, I'm always down to spend more time with my kids. So like when the quarantine, when the lockdowns started happening, I just was like, this is awesome. I mean, like, yeah, I miss work and all that stuff, but to be able to spend more time with my kids, like chill quality time without having to like, okay, I get to spend time with you, but we got to do this, and this, because you got to do homework. We got to take you here. Like, you know, without that hecticness, to be able to slow down and be able to chill and be able to like, hey, let's hang out. Like, you want to train a little bit? Great. You don't want to train a little bit? Great. You know, let's watch some TV. And I don't have to rush to my next appointment. I don't have to do anything. So like a lot of that, you know, people talk about the silver lining in COVID. For me, it's like that's just staring me right in the face. I've been wanting to spend more time with my parents and my kids under the same roof. So this has been awesome. Good. As far as work though, I've been lucky to still get some work in, like whether with virtual consults, as far as with patients, or virtual training sessions. And what's been interesting is that I think a lot of people who were loath to do virtual training sessions, because it's suddenly become like, oh, that's the thing that everyone's going to be doing, because you don't really have any other option, really enjoyed. They were like, I remember a couple of my clients emphatically made the point that like, man, you know, like you told us that we had these options to do these virtual sessions with you through FaceTime or Zoom. And like, we didn't really think much about it, but then like, you know, now having done a few of these sessions, these were really helpful. So
Yeah.
that was cool to hear.
I think that the world will change. There'll be far less meetings. We just don't need to be meeting in person as much as we do, even though it's very valuable. Sometimes meetings just take up so much of our time, and a lot of times are wasted time. I work in business during the day, and cutting down on the meetings has been such a blessing. You can still get a lot of work done without having an hour-long meeting watching a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
I mean, in person, to me, I think like if you're going to watch a PowerPoint presentation, then like, why not have the option of doing that at home? I mean, Zoom as a platform has been around for a while.
Yeah.
So for it suddenly to get noticed, I mean, like, I'm glad in some sense that COVID has forced us to really recognize the inefficiencies in like our processes, because why should we have to waste an hour each direction on a commute to get to sit in a room to watch a PowerPoint when we could have just done that, like whip on some clothes, go to a quiet room at home and do this.
Yeah. Well, how about we get rid of PowerPoints altogether?
I don't know about that. Here's what I'll say that. My partner in K3, Dr. Jimmy Yuan, like when he puts together a presentation, God, I learned so much. And like, especially when he's talking about K3, and this is like, it trips me out even more about that, because, you know, I figured this is subject matter I know fairly well. You know, this is like, K3 is by and large my brainchild. You know, Jimmy was the one that like was pushing me for a while to put all of this stuff down, like outline the curriculum, shoot the stuff, put it together, block it out. Here's how to, you know, show me how you want it taught. And when Jimmy puts together the PowerPoints to emphasize or kind of explain certain ideas and concepts that we go over in the course, I watch his PowerPoints and go like, wow, like I wish, wow, like that's an excellent learning device there. Like how he puts it together graphically to help tie together other things that we have. So
That's cool.
I'm a fan of PowerPoints. Just depends on who's making them.
Right.
That's I've never met Jimmy, but he seems like a pretty like he would try to make things very interesting no matter what. Fun guy.
Jimmy's awesome. I mean, like I thank my stars that I got the chance to meet him however many years. God, he's known me for I want to say that I met him sometime around like 05-ish. Like Gray invited us to the first, I think it was the first or maybe the second SFMA course that was taught in LA. So I went as a guest of Gray's, and I think Jimmy was there with a couple of his people that had registered. And Jimmy and I hit it off right away. Like as I'm listening to Jimmy talk to his friends, it's like listening to words out of my own mouth, and just that same kind of like irreverent humor. And I'm like, I gotta meet this dude.
Yeah.
He's a funny guy. Gosh.
Oh, sorry, Amanda, go ahead.
Do you like cooking, Mark? Is that right?
Looking at my Instagram, huh?
We're about to go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I traditionally have, I wouldn't say not liked cooking, but always had like some sort of insecurity about it, right? Like, because I know I've never really trained. Like when I was a kid, I never really paid attention to what my mom was doing in the kitchen. Like I kind of watch and look, but I never like, you know, a lot of kids. Some kids will grow up like right next to their parent or whomever, and you know, or even a nanny, and like watch exactly what's going on. You know, being brought up with their grandparents or whatever, just watching exactly like how they prepare food. You know, I would watch a little bit, but I'd never be there for the whole process. Because my parents were like, you know, we'll make dinner, you go do your homework. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And now as a parent, making food is, you know, I realized, you know, I've heard this throughout the years, but I never really realized it until like getting in on this end myself. But really to be able to feed someone, something that they really enjoy as an expression of love is so fulfilling. So these days for myself, cooking's like a kind of meditation. It allows me to experiment, allows me to be creative, but also too, like if the result is good, man, like now I have a way of a different venue through which to express my care or express my love for someone. So,
Well, this stuff you make looks amazing. And
what in particular, like, it has you salivating?
well, you put on some. They were just little tacos in a leaf the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes and sometimes the things you'll make with pork belly, it's like, oh, that looks so good.
Those come out pretty well. So one of the things that I like to do is I think, you know, as an Asian American, I think a lot of folks get pigeonholed one way or the other. They're like, either like, I've got to, you know, I want to specialize in American cuisine, or like, I've got to be hardcore Asian and do like everything exactly the way it was when I grew up, either like the Chinese way, Korean way, whatever, right? So they get into like an orthodoxy. And I think, you know, the cool thing about being Asian American is that like, we have all of these cultures that we can draw on, right? As Asians, like I can totally draw on Chinese cuisine or whatever, right? But as an American, we have the freedom to pick and choose what we want and then reassemble those little facets or those little assets in different ways to make an even better product. So like, for example, one of the leaf taco things were, Koreans, if you go to a Korean barbecue, one of the things they'll do is they'll take a perilla leaf, which is like a kind of, I think it's in the sesame family, I'm not sure. But it's a leaf that's often used in sushi as well. So they'll take that leaf and then they'll, like when they're barbecuing the beef or whatever meats they are, like once it's done, they'll throw it in the meat, or throw it in the leaf rather, and then just eat it as a soft taco. Well, I can't remember what cut we were doing. I want to say it was like a top sirloin or something like that. I just, you know, seasoned the sirloin, threw it on the grill, and then like I like to thin slice the meats. So it's easy for the kids to eat. They don't have to saw at it and stuff like that. They can just eat it. as well as my parents too. So it's like, it's easier for them to eat as well. So I was thin slicing that, and I thought, you know, like the perilla leaves are mature in the garden, like, and I love eating those. So like, rinse those off, and then that becomes like a soft taco. And then for those people that are avoiding carbs, great. But, you know, for those people that are familiar with Korean style cuisine, just throwing the barbecued meat or the grilled meat, finished meats into that leaf as a soft taco itself, perfect.
Yeah.
Sounds so good. A perilla leaf, you called it?
Yeah, Perilla.
Okay. I have never seen one.
Yeah, I haven't
Yeah,
seen that.
it's got a distinct taste to it. I think the first time I tried it, I was like, this is kind of odd. And then like the second time I tried it, I remember thinking like, oh, I've tasted this before. This is in sushi. Some sushi has it. It's known in Chinese medicine as one of the purple leaves. I can't remember the full name off the top of my head, translation of the full name, but it's a purple leaf. Like the top side of the leaf is green. The underside of the leaf, if it's healthy, is purple. And it's used in Chinese medicine for food poisoning, for flu, for these different things. So it makes sense that it was included in sushi. But the Koreans use it just almost like as a wrap, and it's delicious.
I'm gonna look for some.
Yeah. Now, Amanda and I we went to Hawaii together in January and ate a lot of plate lunch, and we loco moco, and we discovered something called a malasada. Are you familiar with the pastry or Malaysian donut?
Oh, I was getting ready to say, like, I've heard of something like that from like India and Southeast Asia, but not from Hawaii. So yeah, that makes sense.
Really good. Highly recommend if you can find a Malasada truck sometime.
Oh yeah, I've seen them in LA. I just haven't. I don't know that we have any place. I'm sure there are. I mean, luckily, where the part of LA County that I live in, the city is called Diamond Bar. It's really ethnically diverse. So we've got like insanely good Indian restaurants, Vietnamese, Korean, Chinese, like you name it. Not to mention insanely good Latin food from across Central and South America.
All right. Are the restaurants doing takeout there right now, or is everything still?
Yes. There's no other option right now. Like, to my knowledge, I don't think they actually set a timeline for when restaurants can reopen for sit-in dining.
Mm-hmm. Well, in my town, they are. I'm in Coos County, Oregon, and we're one of the counties that is able to start kind of a soft opening. So there's, I think they're allowed half capacity, social distancing. So it's kind of nice. Portland, though, is not open yet. They're still closed down. So do you have any, once we are kind of through COVID and we can start doing workshops again and all the stuff we all love to do, or do you have some K3 combat or some other workshops or clinics or certifications coming up? And
yes, supposed to be, well, as it stands right now, the Dome is supposed to happen again in July. We had to reschedule that from May because of COVID. But as it stands right now, we still have the Strong First SFG, like I think it's 1, 2, and then I want to say a Flexible Steel is happening at the same time. I'm not entirely sure. As well as and I think the SFB as well is happening again this year. So that should be this July. Please check the strongfirst.com website on that one for the details. And as far as K3, Jimmy and I decided to take all of the workshops off the calendar for 2020 until like we know for sure what the situation is. Because he and I, since we're running kind of a skeleton crew, I and George Samuelson, didn't want to be like scheduling stuff and then having to take it off and then reschedule it and then look for another venue again. So like, rather than going back and forth and ping-ponging that way, we decided like, let's just wait until we know for sure what the situation is and then go from there. If we have to go all virtual, so be it. If we don't, then let's figure that out when the time comes.
How extensively do you travel for that for K3?
How extensively do I travel for K3? So far, we've only done K3 workshops domestically. So we've done, 2 in LA, 1 in New York, and then 1 at Onnit headquarters in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
So, all 4 that we've done so far have been pretty well attended, been pretty good. But we're still taking in requests from overseas. Just really that all deals with figuring out the logistics, and all of that got the wrench thrown into it from COVID.
Yeah.
I know Peter Wolf. We had Peter Wolf on as one of our first, and he's in Oregon, and he's partnering with John Auden, and they do a Zoom class. John's in Bend, Oregon. Peter's in Medford. They do a Zoom class every Friday, and Peter does elements of K3 in that. And he had a workshop planned. I think it was last month, but had to cancel. So I definitely am going to be checking that out when he gets that up again.
Peter's an outstanding instructor. I mean, like, and for those that don't know of him, I mean, he's in Chinese martial arts. He's super accomplished. So when he told me that he was interested in K3, I was kind of shocked. I was like, wow, like, you're one of these guys that, like, I look to, and it's like, you know, been there, done that, and definitely got the t-shirt. So the fact that you want in on this, like, that blows my mind. And then he told his mentor, Brandon Sugiyama, who's a massive standout in the world of wushu, competitive Chinese martial arts performance. When he told Brandon, and Brandon showed up at On It, I was floored. I mean, because Brandon is someone that I'd followed, or at least known of, since, I want to say, the 90s. So, you know, for these people like that to, like, on that level of experience and gosh, I don't even know what the right word is, that, like, that level of achievement, to be interested in K3, and then to be digging the material and then wanting to share it with others, just, like, bowls me over. And that's something I never expected.
Yeah, I think it's gonna blow up. I think that people, once they hear about it and they see, I really do, and I think it's going to be all ages. It's not just going to be martial arts people. I think it's going to be people of all ages and all types of training.
That's the goal. That's always been the goal, because like, you know, the perception of fitness for a lot of folks is that, like, you've got a short window through which to be able to enter into this world, right? Like, as a kid, you can train and you can, you know, test the waters of fitness, but, like, past a certain age, like, I don't want to be doing all that. Instead, if we made it all fun and, like, allowed you to feel better rather than expecting a beat down in fitness, then, like, why not? You know, then the intimidation factor would be gone. And if you could just notice, like, oh, I did this workout, a little bit sore, but I'm stronger. Like, I stand straighter. Like, I feel better. I can do more, and I'm learning something cool and engaging. Then I think people would have less of a reticence to join in.
Yeah. Well, Amanda and I have talked a lot about how we'd like to see more women get away from, I need to go to the gym to work out to get thinner and smaller and just get, like you say, beat down. I mean, we'd like to see more women embracing this type of training. So we will be championing this.
I think for women specifically, one of the things that K3 brings to the table is, it's like, you're not at all expected to behave in a diminutive fashion. Like, you need to get out there and move. You need to understand how to move your body around someone else. And it's not going to be as close quarter as, let's say, jujitsu. Because, you know, you don't have to have some big sweaty guy lying on top of you and having to wrestle with him. On the other hand, like, you do have to respond to a physical stimulus, right? Something is coming at you, and it's not an inanimate object. This is live, and it's not necessarily threatening, but it's taught in a way where, like, you need to be able to handle your distancing, you need to be able to handle your range, you need to be able to handle your timing, you need to be able to handle whatever you're working with. And so, outside of just the self-defense aspects of it, like, because you're moving so much, your metabolism is now spiking. And we all know that, you know, when you ask people, like, how do you want to improve your metabolism? Well, we got to burn a lot of glucose. What's the biggest burner of glucose in the human body? The central nervous system. So when the brain is super engaged in every moment of every aspect of the training, you will sweat like mad, even though, like, it may be far less physical exertion than stuff that you normally do. And don't break a sweat.
Yeah.
I like to train alone for that reason too. Whatever I'm doing, you know, because I can tap into that and just really, really focus. And then now doing that, if there's another person there and there's a distraction, in a weird way just disrupts the whole workout for me.
Yeah, it goes both ways. I think there's a time when like a good training partner is really good at like bringing out the best in you. And there are other times when it's like, I just need to zone out and zen in so that I can like get the best out of the best experience.
Right.
Cool.
I heard something where you're talking about you had that conversation, or not had that conversation, but you approach things with your daughter that way, as far as, you know, females and her not having to play the typical little girl role, but teaching her empowerment and being strong and being comfortable in her own skin. And I think that's huge. That's an awesome thing for a father to do for their daughter.
Yeah, very cool.
I think for me, in my perspective as a man, like women have a lot of power. And I think a lot of the social friction that happens between men and women, I think happens because either men or women don't understand their own power and the give and take of that. And so a lot of times there are arguments, there's this, there's that, there's like disharmony. And so when someone understands their power and their potential and understands how to be responsible for it, understands when and how to exert it, and also when and how to pull it back and rein it in to be like receptive, then people get along better. And as they get along better, then, you know, there's less problems, less issues. So for my daughter, for Mika, like one of the things that I wanted to emphasize for her is that like in this society, in American society, you've got a particular kind of power. And you've got a freedom that's pretty unparalleled. So because you've got all of that, you're so responsible for it. So now, like, you have to be responsible for your safety for those people that don't want to honor that. So when it comes time to, you know, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you have to defend yourself, there's a physics to that. So here's the process. But similarly, you are also someone that has to be able to carry herself in a dignified, chilled, easy fashion, right? To not like feel so insecure that you have to make noise just to be noticed. So, you know, one of the things that I love to do on those mornings that I get to take her to school is that like, we'll get to school, you know, I'll park maybe like half a block away, walk her to school, to the door, hold her hand, walk her to there. And then like, before she goes in, I'll be like, all right, honey, you ready? And I'll go for like a slap or something like that, or a punch. And she'll be like, bah, 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 bah. And so she like, that's her little thing to just dial in and be like, yeah. And it's cool because she, you know, she'll hold her head up high and then skip in through the front door. Whereas like, you know, you'll see some of her classmates or whatever, just not want to go to school, not want to get out of the car, not want to do this, not want to do that. And then to see her energy like that, I think changes the tune for other people that are observing well as well.
Yeah.
That sounds so cool. Amanda and I don't have girls, we only have boys. So, you know.
Yeah, I'm like my boy, you know, especially at the beginning, he wasn't so stoked to learn martial arts. And there were a lot of times when I was like, I think a little bit more insistent to say that like, okay, look, you want to do that? Great. I'll let you have your, you know, iPod touch time or your TV time or whatever, but you come in, you train first, you know, and that it was rough back then when he was little, because I just had to just continue to try and motivate him by hook or by crook. And now that he's 14, it's very interesting because like there are things that he'll say or do that in terms of martial arts where he's like, yeah, hey dad, can we go over this? Can we go over that? And I'm like, you know, part of me still remembers that 6 or 7 year old kid that like I had to pull kicking and screaming to go training. And now he's like, oh yeah, hey dad, we haven't done this in a while. Hey dad, you should go run. I'll go run with you. Like, whoa, really? Like, it's very cool.
You'll have that forever. My son, my oldest, plays golf, and my husband coached him. And now he's 21, and when he comes home he's living at home now, but they have that golf connection, and it's intense. And I mean, they play together, they talk about it. Sometimes I just have to leave the room. I love the sport, but I'm just not quite at that level of interest. but they have that and they'll have it forever. And it's really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, for my son to be able to, I mean, he's now not that much shorter than me, and he's relatively strong. I mean, he's able to press the 20-kilo bell now. So, and he's like, I think 5 foot, maybe 5'1". But yeah, for him to be able to press that and to be able, I mean, he's, you know, it comes up to my chin now. So for him to be able to roughhouse with me a little bit more is like, and explore technique and to you know, do all the things that he does. He's become really my best training partner.
Oh, that's cool.
That's great.
Very cool.
They're cute kids.
Well, hey, Doc Cheng, we like to kind of wrap up. We have these 10 questions that we want to do. Do you want me to do them, Amanda?
Go ahead, sure.
Okay. And you don't have to do it. It's not a speed round or anything. But
Okay. No, if there's something I need to punt on, I'll tell you that for sure.
okay. They're pretty easy. So, favorite color?
Black.
Pretty cool. We hear that a lot. Favorite meal?
Meal of the day or just food?
Anything. Food. If you go anywhere in the world and have your favorite meal, what would it be?
Oh God, that would be an easy one. Hawaii. Chicken katsu curry plate lunch.
Yeah. Good answer. That's a good one. The last book you've read?
Ooh. Last book I've read. I want to say it's Erwan Lacour's book, and the title is escaping me right now. I can visualize the cover, but I can't remember the exact title. I want to say it's like On Movement or something like that. But yes, the book Erwan Lacour wrote.
Cool. Your favorite band or style of music?
Oh, R&B hip hop for sure. Band, gosh, that I'm not sure of right now. For whatever reason, Mint Condition from the '90s is like playing on loop and on my playlist. So yeah.
Yeah. 90s R&B.
That's
so
it. Totally 90s.
The last movie you watched?
Movie. Ooh.
It doesn't have to be at the theater. It could be something you watched with your kids last night. So.
You know, it's interesting. Like we've been watching a fair amount of Netflix, but almost everything has been series stuff, like stuff that's been on the CW. Like a lot of the superhero shows get pretty engrossing. So we watch, like lately we were watching Arrow for quite some time. And so that was a sleeper. That kind of, when I remember when it was on TV, I kind of ignored it. And then like, you know, now being out here on this side of town and away from a lot of my social network, which is on the other side, the west side of town, you know, spending time with the kids is different. So like we just chill and sometimes just watch Arrow. And that's been really enjoyable. But movies, gosh, I don't know. I want to say the most recent one that I've watched in the theaters would probably be John Wick 3.
Cool. I just saw that they're going to have another Matrix movie too.
Yes. Yeah. I'm curious to see how that where they are in production for that. But yeah, that's.
Gotta love Keanu. We'll have to get him on the podcast, Amanda. Something you procrastinate.
Oh God, that list is long. Running. I'll say, yeah, that's the first thing that comes to mind. Like I have, ever since like high school, I think was the last time I really, really enjoyed running, just running for running's sake. And then since then, I've just like, I don't really run that much. So now that I have a goal and an event to train for and something like that, yeah, I need to make sure that I'm doing more running. So
you're training for something?
Yes. I got to study karate with a gentleman while I was in college, who's like one of, gosh, how do I say it? He's really, truly one of like the early founding fathers of Japanese karate here in the States. And I had the rare opportunity to train with him like right when I first came out to LA. And I never actually finished my black belt with him. And so to hear throughout the years that like, oh yeah, you know, what's Mark doing? And then like the fact that I was at all still on his radar, or he remembered me, shocked me. And so I made myself a promise that before I hit 50, I'd go through the black belt test and all of these other things, just to, and while my teacher's still with us, you know, he's older now. I think he's 90, 91. But while he's still with us, I want to be able to just like get this thing signed, sealed, and delivered. And rather than just, you know, it's not one of those styles or organizations where they just hand you a certificate. You go through a thing called special training, which is like 3 days of training. Like what you come in on a Wednesday night, the workouts start, and it finishes, I think, Friday night or Saturday morning. I'm not entirely sure about the specifics of the schedule. And then if you do really well there and you meet the requirements, you are allowed to go through the Dan testing or the black belt testing. And so got to survive those 3 days of training. And then hopefully I'll be able to sit for the black belt test, or not sit, but undergo the black belt test. But the first workout on that Wednesday night is a 5-mile run on sand. So that's the first workout. And while the sand is wet sand, like it's at the water line, it's still 5 miles. And coming from a guy that like hasn't really done more than a mile in 10 years, to ramp up to 5 is a big jump. So yeah, I'm working on it. I'm sorry?
When is this happening?
It was supposed to happen in the middle of June. Right now we're on standby to see what actually does happen. Okay. So
you'll do great.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
See.
Fine. Do you do your training in the sand? Because I know I live on the coast, and when we run on the beach, it's a little slopey. So you have to get used to that kind of weird angle when you're down by the water.
Yeah, since I moved out to this side of town, inland, I'm inland now, like about an hour away from the beach. So like I'll go into the west side to work, but I need to figure out a way to budget time so that I can actually get in some training time on the sand. And they just recently reopened the beaches in LA, so it's a possibility. I gotta figure. Right now there's just so many moving parts, and honestly, for me to be able to up my road work potential, to be able to hit that 5 miles, I can do that anywhere. So I should be able to put in the training here in this side of town.
Your son he'll make you go run.
Yeah, he's actually been really good about encouraging me.
That's good.
And yeah, like last night the two of us were gonna go for a run, and the little one wanted to join in too. So we ended up doing like run walk sprints, which was fun.
Yeah.
So we'd sprint for a while, then like walk so she could catch up, and then, you know, walk for a little while so she's not too winded, and then sprint again. And so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, Amy, where were we? Sorry.
Okay. No, that's good. That's awesome. What's a hobby or interest that people listening may not know about?
Ooh, I think I'm pretty transparent. I mean, my hobbies are all, I mean, my work are my hobbies. I'm spoiled that way. Hobby or interest?
You're not like a secret knitter like James Neidlinger?
Oh, James is awesome. God, I have some of his pieces. They're awesome. I wish I had skills like that. Wow. I'm one of these guys. It's like I look at people that have skills like that, and I'm just like, just in awe and envy. No, I think I'm pretty transparent. I wish I had something like that, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Okay. Favorite vacation place?
Home, bed. No lie.
Yeah.
People go, "Oh, Doc, where would you like to go for vacation? You know, you've been all these different places." In honesty, like I've traveled around the world to teach in so many different places, but I can't tell you how many times, like China, Korea, wherever, right? It's like airport, hotel, lecture hall, or gym, back to hotel. Like I'm wiped out. They're like, "Oh, you don't want to go sightseeing?" Dude, I want sleep. Like,
yeah.
So There are a lot of places that I would love to be able to go explore more, but honestly, like these days, a great vacation would be just like chill, relax, like restorative time at home when not having to travel, not having to worry about expenses, not having to worry about whatever. And then like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So home.
Yeah,
Staycation.
definitely.
Vacation,
I've
yes.
enjoyed that. I've enjoyed that about the quarantine. I just get to go home and be in my own house weekend after weekend. One more. We have one more question. Something people may get wrong about you.
Ooh, God. That's quite a list.
Secrets come out.
It's crazy because like, you know, now, especially since my hair is longer, people look at me like, oh, he's like kind of must be wild. He's must be totally against the convention, or, you know, he looks like he's rough or this or that. And I think the people that know me a little bit better or have interacted with me know that like I'm a big softie. Like I just want people to be happy, to get along, to be chill, to be healthy. And not everything has to be about martial arts in the sense of like fighting. I think people that really understand martial arts well know that fighting is like the most superficial level of it. And it really, the whole idea behind martial arts is to be able to make us healthy, confident, you know, able to handle conflict, but for what purpose? Not to dominate someone else, but to be able to protect people that we love. So I think one of the biggest misconceptions about me is that like, you know, I'm rough, right? Like I like to fight, I like violence, whatever, right? And what motivates me the most is the chill time, the downtime, the softness, the tenderness.
Awesome.
Oh,
Very
that's
cool.
great.
Well, we both have had the privilege of having you teach us at Strong First events, and you're an excellent teacher. Just the way you break things down and the way you explain, and you are a very, very good teacher. I still have very vivid memories of you teaching things at my level 1, and that was 6 years ago. Just a lot, and then I put them into practice when I teach students. So yeah,
Thank you.
Not trying to embarrass you. I'm just saying, people, you are a great teacher.
That means a lot to me. It's been interesting. Like lately, I've put out some cues on a few lifts on my Instagram, going over the swing, my version of a squat, and then you know, the kettlebell snatch. And it's been really cool to hear from people who are, you know, certified instructors going like, wow, those are details I didn't have, or details that I wasn't clear on, or cues that now like, oh, that like I knew that I needed to find some way of being able to help my clients or myself with a particular lift, and you gave a cue that resonates. So to be able to hear stuff like that from people who are people I would say are my colleagues in the industry is touching. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, Doc Cheng, thank you so much. We're right at an hour. We know you have a busy day, and even if you don't, we want you to be able to get back to chilling out in Diamond Bar. So thanks a lot. This means a lot to us. We'll have this out this afternoon, and hope to see more of you. Really looking forward to seeing more from K3 Combat Systems and that program. And we just wish you the best. So take care.
Thank you.
Hopefully both of you guys can join in next time we have a K3 live event. That'll be a lot of fun.
You come to Austin, I'm coming for sure.
Yeah, we gotta do a return trip to Austin.
Yeah. It's close enough to me. I would love that.
Excellent.
All right, guys, I'm going to sign us off. Thank you so much. Hope everybody has a good day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.